Author's statement of history and clarity. I grew up during a time when video games were not just entertainment to me but experiences that shaped how I understood fear, courage, and survival. Some of the earliest games that held my attention were survival horror stories that placed ordinary people into extraordinary circumstances, not as heroes seeking glory but as humans struggling to endure. Those stories stayed with me, not because of monsters alone, but because they asked quiet questions about what it means to remain human when the world collapses around you. As I grew older and came to faith, I began to view those same stories through a different lens. I no longer saw fear as neutral. I began to discern themes of corruption, surrender, and transformation, not only in fiction but in the real world. This work exists at the intersection of those two experiences, my early love for survival horror as a genre and my present commitment to biblical truth and spiritual discernment. This series is not a retelling of any existing game or story. It is an original work that explores similar emotional terrain while intentionally rejecting borrowed characters, settings, plots, and terminology. The purpose is not nostalgia, but reflection. The purpose is not fear for fear's sake, but clarity, exposing how corruption begins quietly, how it spreads subtly, and how discernment is often the final line between survival and surrender. Defining the corruption. In this world, corruption is not a virus, not a parasite, and not a scientific anomaly. Corruption is consent. It begins when fear is accepted as truth. It grows when isolation replaces accountability. It matures when survival is valued above conscience. The corruption does not infect the body first. It erodes the will. Those affected begin to lose the ability to resist certain thoughts, certain impulses, certain whispers that promise safety, power, or relief. Physical changes may follow, but they are consequences, not causes. The corruption responds to surrender. The more a person yields, the more it reshapes them. Those who resist remain fragile, exhausted, and afraid, but they remain themselves. Those who embrace it become something efficient, obedient, and hollow. This corruption does not create monsters. It reveals them. Framing this as a discernment-based series. This series is designed as an exercise in discernment, not only for the characters within the story but for the audience observing it. Each chapter is meant to pose a quiet question rather than deliver a loud answer. What do you accept when you are afraid? What do you excuse when survival is on the line? What do you become when resistance costs too much? The horror is not found in sudden violence alone, but in gradual compromise. The true tension lies in recognizing the moment when safety is offered at the price of obedience, and deciding whether that offer is refuge or a trap. Discernment in this world is not mystical. It is moral. It is spiritual. It is the ability to recognize when something that feels helpful is actually destructive. Genre disclaimer. This work is an original piece of fiction. It is inspired by general survival horror themes such as isolation, scarcity, psychological tension, and moral pressure. It is not affiliated with, endorsed by, or derived from any existing video game, franchise, or intellectual property. All characters, locations, terminology, and events are original creations. Any similarities to existing works are thematic only and exist at the level of genre convention, not specific expression. Original world, name, and lore. World name: Ashfall Reach. Overview. Ashfall Reach is a remote inland region surrounded by natural barriers that limit travel and communication. Long before the events of the story, the area was settled as a place of quiet work, self-reliance, and separation from outside influence. Over time, that isolation became both its strength and its weakness. Power is inconsistent. Signals fade without explanation. Roads deteriorate faster than they should. The land feels heavy, as if it remembers something unresolved. Lore foundation. Decades ago, a belief spread quietly among the people of Ashfall Reach, the belief that fear could be mastered if one simply listened to it. That belief evolved into practices, rituals, and eventually systems designed to remove uncertainty from human decision-making. What began as guidance became control. What began as protection became obedience. The corruption did not arrive from outside. It was cultivated. Pilot narrative. Pilot title: Ashfall Reach, The First Night. The radio stopped working just before dusk. It did not spark or hiss or fail dramatically. It simply went silent, as if the world on the other side had chosen not to answer anymore. Elias noticed it while adjusting the antenna, his fingers stiff from the cold that clung to everything in Ashfall Reach, even in seasons that were not meant to be cold. He did not panic. Panic came later, after silence had time to settle. The road behind him was empty, stretching back into trees that looked thinner than they should have been, their branches bent inward like listeners. Ahead, the settlement lights flickered, not off, not on, but uncertain. Elias took inventory without thinking, flashlight half charged, food for 2 days if rationed, 1 flare, no weapon worth naming. Inside the settlement, doors were closed too tightly. Curtains were drawn too carefully. This was not the behavior of people hiding from danger outside. It was the behavior of people hiding from one another. A figure crossed the street ahead, moving without urgency, head tilted slightly as if listening to something Elias could not hear. When Elias called out, the figure paused but did not turn. After a moment, it continued walking, unafraid. That was when Elias felt it, not fear, but pressure, a quiet insistence in the back of his thoughts, a suggestion that there was an easier way to proceed, a safer way, if he would simply stop resisting the guidance that everyone else seemed to accept. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and whispered a prayer he had not planned to say. The night in Ashfall Reach was not loud. It did not scream. It waited. And Elias understood, with unsettling clarity, that survival here would not be determined by strength, speed, or cleverness, but by what he was willing to refuse, even when refusal left him alone.